It's time to take control of the narrative and delete racial inequality in the workplace.
Hi, my name is Oluchi Ikechi. I'm a managing director from Accenture, and I'm responsible for all of the work that we do around business restructuring and innovation for capital market clients in the UK. I'm delighted today to be part of the Reboot team, which is all around super babes. And this is an initiative that allows us to hear from inspiring ethnic minorities making a mark in the corporate world. We are sharing these stories to help control the narrative after perceptions and biases and delete the racial inequality in the workplace. Today, as I mentioned, it's my honor to be interviewing a super babe from my own very organization, Accenture, Abidemi. So let's get to it. Abidemi, lovely to have you here today.
Hey, Ollie, how you doing?
Very well, very well. So as I said, you are one of the super babes that have been identified. I would love for you to just start off with a bit of background and around yourself. So tell us a bit around who you are and why you are the way you are. And that could be, going back to childhood or just telling us a story that cements for the audience a little bit about you.
So I guess some of the nuances that have made me who I am today really starts, first of all, from observing my parents. So my parents are immigrants, and therefore I am a kiddigrant. And I observed just how hard they worked when we were young to ensure that there was food on the table. In some cases, they'd work multiple jobs. And so for us really young, we knew it wasn't an option to be mediocre. And I remember my parents, my mum would say, son, you got to strive to be excellent if you're going to make it in this world. And my dad would, being the ever realist he is, says, you need to work twice or three times as hard if you want to get into any of these rooms, because son, it's difficult out there. And so this really, for me, cemented some of the foundational behaviors in me as a person. And one example I often think about is I started working really young. My first job was at Cromwell's Madhouse, and my second set were inside Brent Cross shopping centre. But I remember there were days where I didn't have money to take the bus, and it wasn't as though that gave me an out of then working. So I would effectively trek all the way from near a place called Kingsbury Circle all the way to Brent Cross, which is a number of miles. And I'd get to work and be standing up doing the day job. No one would be any the wiser of what my journey to work was like. And this is what's really cemented me and my passion, but also my relentlessness in driving forwards to achieving goals.
Sounds like you had a very strong upbringing in the sense of really setting you up, I guess, for differences in the world that we live in today. And I guess moving now to more so the corporate world and where you sit and your kind of journey through there, I'd love to hear more about your perceptions on some of that, some of those challenges that we do deal with within the BAME community in the corporate world, and what we might call systemic racism and inherent racism. So just keen to get your views on where you think those challenges exist today in society.
So it's a really good question. So for me, I think there are two key things that really stand out. One is this sense of access to opportunity. And for many people, especially those who are kiddigrants, when your parents arrive in this country, they aren't necessarily endowed with lots of money and luxuries to go and find themselves in a location or an area that's well populated with services and amenities. So right from the very beginning, there is a cloud over what you perceive could be your ambitions and your ability to achieve them. And that systemic nature is something that, until recently, when we saw the A-level challenges, is something I think people just don't want to accept exists. And in many cases, though it really exacerbated when we think about ethnicities and I guess race, it is actually branching out to affecting a number of other people. So I think this sense of giving people better access where they're socially challenged is one of the inherent systemic challenges we have in the UK. But the second I will talk about is this sense of being hidden in plain sight. It's not that though we don't exist, it's not that we don't have talent, it's not as though we're not rocking it every single day. But for some reason, the stereotypes of mass media is often one that is negative towards those of ethnic minority backgrounds, where these caricatures are constantly propagated to those who are not necessarily in the know because they've never had a relationship or even interacted with people of a certain race. But this fuels, in this sense of ambiguity in space, what they perceive we're about, what we can achieve, and the type of characters that we have. And I think it's important there for us to stand in that space of ambiguity and quash those by showing real examples of people who are not only succeeding, but are also giving back to society to ensure that the challenges that we have faced growing through either kid backgrounds or in generally just trying to get into the rooms is not something that propagates continually for the future generations.
Well said. Very well said, and I hope, as I know you do, that we can move on from that and make action. And I guess just in that vein, what are some of the key actions that you would say organizations, corporations, and also society need to be doing to make sure that those things are not the case in the next 5 years, in the next five months, quite frankly, but in the future to come?
I would say it starts very much like a human relationship. If we're going to create something that's sustainable and it's something that we're not effectively putting on people as a burden, then people need to want to have the relationships. They need to want to burst the bubbles that they find themselves in because they see the value in diversifying the bubbles that they operate in. I often talk to people about the fact that our bubbles that we've lived through in life have conditioned the way we think. It conditions our aspirations, ambitions, but generally the behaviors that we have. And I can attest, as I've gone through life, the importance of continually bursting my bubble and learning about people from other backgrounds as a means of broadening my perspective, but driving a greater sense of empathy. So I think for companies, one of the first things to do is really celebrate the diversity that's in their companies. Again, this is not a sense of trying to burden people with these very difficult, challenging conversations, but actually starting from the sense of, if you truly value this human being in your company, then why not celebrate the nuances, the differences that make them unique, and help them realize that they are valuable within your company. Why is this important? It's clear through studies, through practical experience, that when people feel good about themselves, when they feel they're doing something meaningful, you'll get the best performance. The second then is thinking about some of the inherent orthodoxies in the way business operates now. The reality is many businesses were set up for a bygone time. And so some of those orthodoxies, when you arrive in the room, need to be disbanded. So the second I would say is think about those orthodoxies, challenge and disrupt them. And then the third is then think about the external impact as a company you can have on society so that you're sowing these seeds into the very comprehension and mindset of the upcoming generations, so we don't find a situation where we're constantly trying to retrain people after they've taken a lot of their early life year conditioning.
Again, another great response, Abidemi. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thanks,
it's been
Ollie.
Great. And I look forward to seeing this in action and seeing a lot more of the other super BAMEs that you will be seeing in the collection. I think it's so important that as allies within the BAME community and leaders within the BAME community, we continue to be the voice for other people. So thank you again for taking the time and hope you all enjoyed that segment. Thank you.
Thanks, Ollie.
It's time to reboot with superhero Black, Asian and minority ethnic professionals redefining the corporate world.